This is probably one of the most common questions that we get asked. And to be honest, it's one of the key focuses that we spend with our franchisees when we're onboarding them. The question is, what is the difference between home staging and interior design? I get it. Both involve furniture, both involve designing beautiful spaces. So what is the difference truly? Stick around and we're going to unpack it all. So let's talk about what the core differences are when it comes to interior design versus home staging. With interior design, you are designing for one person or one family and the way they live. You are thinking about reflecting their home and their walls with their memories, bringing in colors that speak to them, bringing in energy that they're looking for in a home. What's interesting is when we design a space, we love to understand our client in the most intimate way because we want to understand if they want to walk into their home and be energized, if they want to walk in and feel calmed and have it be a place of serenity. We factor in all of these elements and we think about the way that they live in order to design a space and choose colors that are going to reflect the way they truly want to live. In contrast, home staging is an entirely different approach. I don't care how you live in home staging. I care about how to attract the most buyers possible into the home and tell their story. And so home staging oftentimes actually designs in a very generic way. I like to say home staging oftentimes in design is boring. And I know that's cliche and I'm probably going to get a whole lot of hate from home stagers by saying something like that. But the reality is we're doing our job right if we appeal to the masses. That means we can't go too bold on color because we're going to offend somebody. That means we can't go too distinct in our design style because somebody is going to be turned off by that. And so we want to think about the elements that are going to attract the most possible buyers in a home staging setting. The other big difference between interior design and home staging is interior design is for comfort. It's for longevity. The thoughtfulness around durability of furniture is huge because the goal is if you're going to buy a sofa that you have that sofa for the next 10 years and it functions in a way where you sit there and you don't ever want to get out of your seat. In contrast with home staging, that piece of furniture, if we do our job right, is only going to be sitting in a home for 30, 60, 90 days. That's it. And so we don't care as much about longevity. I can have a beautiful sofa and it can be incredibly uncomfortable and it's nailing its job because its only job is to be attractive. And so we think about functionality in those pieces in two totally different ways. Simply put, interior design is personal and home staging is purposeful. I want to share a story with you of watching this actually play out. So we had this amazing client of ours that I've worked with for years. She brought me into a beautiful $3 million property and she said, Alisa, the homeowners want to continue to live here, but I'd love your advice. Help us figure out how to help it show its best. And so I met with the homeowners and we walked the property together and their home was beautiful. It was beautifully designed. They had custom upholstered pieces of furniture that were truly a reflection of them. They had a beautiful library in their lobby area that was covered in books and a collection of all of the things they loved and the education that they've collected over their years as a family. And so we walked through the property and I did the very best of giving advice on what they could do, maybe taking some things out to simplify it so that it could showcase in a really beautiful way. The home sat on the market for about 90 days with only a couple of showings. That's it. And to be completely honest, from a designer perspective, the home was beautiful, but it was customly designed to them. And the home sellers were in a situation where they said, you know what, this just isn't working. We need to move into our new home. It's ready. And so they decided to move out and move all of their furniture out of their home, and the home was left vacant. So the agent called me up again and she said, Alisa, they're out of the house. I need it furnished because I know the impact that has. Can you stage it? And so we came in and we staged that home. And you know what's crazy? That house sold in 3 days. That's it. And I'm not saying that this is a story because the home seller had bad taste. The home seller had beautiful taste. But the home seller's home looked like it was specifically for one person. And our staging looked like it could appeal to many. And that's the biggest difference when you're thinking about interior design and home staging and how those two can play. When we're designing these spaces, we also think about design and staging in two different ways in terms of how we function in the spaces. So with interior design, we love to get to know how you actually live in your space. So first of all, how many kids do you have? How old are your children? Do they play soccer and have their cleats in the living room on a regular basis? Because we're probably not going to break that habit. The reality is we probably need a rug that's going to withstand that from a durability standpoint. Do you have pets? Do you have cats that have claws? Do you have dogs that have black hair? All of these elements are things that we need to think about. But we even take it a step further. How do you actually live in this space? Okay, great, you're a family of 5, but do you host Thanksgiving every year and you have a massive extended family? How are we going to support that in that special time of the season so that your whole family can be in that space? These are the things we think about and deep dive into. Where are your kids doing their homework? Do they do it in their bedroom or do they actually do it on the kitchen counter? All of these elements should be shaping the design and the selections in your home. And so it's very methodical around function. In contrast with home staging, when we think about furniture placement and pieces we're going to use, we think all about the MLS photography first and foremost, because the first way somebody's going to be attracted to a home is by seeing those photos online. The second part that we really like to focus on is how the buyer is going to be walking through the property. We never want to block sight lines. We always want to make sure we open up natural flow. And so what's interesting is I will walk into a living room and I will say, if we were going to design this space, you better believe that we are placing a TV right here and the sofa's going across from it. But if I'm staging this space, the TV's not even going in the room because nobody wants to think about a TV as long as there's one in the house somewhere. And so we really design around conversation instead. We design around what's aesthetically pleasing and what's going to photograph well. They are two entirely different designs made for two very different purposes. The other aspect that's really important is sometimes we've walked into homes, and I remember one in particular, and it had 4 living rooms. Now, let me ask you a very real question. What do you do with 4 living rooms in a home? The challenge is when my team and I walked in, we all were scratching our head asking that same thing. But if we're asking that question, so is everybody else that's going to be walking through the home. And so with home staging, it's our job to solve some of these mysteries in a property in a way that's going to appeal to most people. So maybe one living room gets to be designed as more a conversational area for when you're hosting guests. Another living room is where you actually watch TV. Maybe the third living room is actually more of a playroom for your kids. And the fourth is that dream exercise space that somebody's been thinking about. But when we design that home, we actually are going to think about the way that the homeowners function. Maybe they don't have children, and so that third playroom is not going to make sense. Again, we want to think about how people could live versus how people actually do live. So you might be wondering at this point in time, I'm going to be selling my property. Do I even need to hire a designer? Is there a need for both? The answer is maybe. One of the things to consider in interior design is not just furniture and furniture placement, but paint colors and finishes as well that can have a really massive impact on the way that your home shows. And so if your home is in need of some updates, some renovations, the biggest ROI and impact that you can have is on picking the right paint colors and on getting some beautiful lighting into your home. And so consider those design upgrades while you're supporting staging can give you your biggest impact and return on investment as you prepare to sell your house. When it comes to interior design and home staging, neither is better. Simply put, they just solve different problems. If this video brought you clarity on the difference between interior design and home staging, I would love to know. Comment down below. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is In Good Space.